Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we are going to compare boas and pythons and decide which family we think is more incredible. I'm going to come to a decision at the end of the video, but I also want you to join in and tell me what you think in the comments. Let's dive in. So that was what appears to be a green anaconda floating downstream whilst swallowing a capybara at the same time. Obviously anacondas are the heaviest snakes on the planet, but they also seem to be exceptionally good at dominating aquatic environments.
What in the hell did he eat? This is an African rock python. These guys got the size and attitude to match. These snakes have been known to grow up to 17 feet and got shocked by this electric fence, turned around and bit it. That was the last thing this guy ever did, but they're one of the few snakes that have actually been known to have eaten a person. These snakes might be quite large, but they spend a good part of their time underground. I mean, where they live, there's not too much water. Really pay attention to this. This is a probably 10-foot snake. It's there 1 second. That little tiny hole you barely saw, that snake is gone. Incredible.
African rock pythons are incredible too. If you can say, like I just did, that anacondas dominate an aquatic environment, I would say that the African rock python species, the central and the southern, both dominate terrestrial environments. They eat whole gazelles, and they're chunkier than most pythons, they're stockier. I'd probably say they're possibly stockier and stronger even than Burmese and Indian pythons. And they climb as well on land. They would certainly be stronger than anacondas.
What if the Titanoboa never went extinct and never stopped evolving? This creature was one of the largest and deadliest snakes to ever exist. And here's what would happen. 55 million years ago, this reptile was the apex predator which lived in the tropical waters, reaching up to 50 feet in length and stood 1 meter tall. The Titanoboa would squeeze the life out of you by wrapping itself around your body and swallow you whole. Furthermore, this creature was extremely intelligent, resting in the murky waters waiting for the perfect time to strike. And so, this beast would cause chaos, engulfing fishermen, farmers, and livestock, making sure the Titanoboa remained an unrivaled predator. This snake could also live on land as well as water, and so it would need to adapt a new color scheme which would make this creature unstoppable. The Titanoboa would impact the population, creating fear and anxiety, known to kill with ruthless efficiency. However, do you think the Titanoboa still exists within the swampy depths of the Amazon forest? Leave it in the comments.
So I very much doubt that a Titanoboa is still out there, even though it would be very exciting, and obviously a lot of that clip was complete nonsense. But just having Titanoboas in their lineage, I think, is definitely a point for Team Boas. So that was a reticulated python doing their trademark lasso movement that they're so good at. I would say with reticulated pythons, like earlier I said that the African rock pythons dominate a terrestrial habitat. I'd say that reticulated pythons can dominate a terrestrial habitat, or a semi-aquatic habitat, or a semi-arboreal one. They vary a lot in size, thickness, depending on localities, but overall I find that they seem to be more dynamic and stronger at climbing and retaining some agility, even when they're big, in comparison to other pythons and anacondas. So yeah, they're the world's largest snake, and they're probably the one most likely to pop up in unusual places too. Basin boas and emerald tree boas are two of many people's dream snakes. They're amazing looking snakes, and they bear a very striking resemblance to the next snake. So that was a green tree python, and obviously you can see the resemblance with the basin tree boas and the emerald tree boas. This is a classic case of convergent evolution, and they both, as you can see, they've got similar colour and pattern. They both go through ontogenetic colour shift as they mature, so the babies for green tree pythons start out red or yellow, and the baby tree boas start out red, or kind of like a dark ruby red kind of thing. And they both change as they change their habits. As they grow older, they move more into the canopy and they turn green, which is pretty amazing. That's quite easy to make that comparison. But what's even more interesting to me is that they've both got that similar pose that they coil into on branches. And what that actually is not just a convenient way of resting, that's an energy saving mechanism as well. So when they have their coils in equilibrium, sorry, it's hard to say the word, on either side of a branch, they don't have to tense any muscles or expend any energy balancing. They're just letting their weight balance them for themselves. And that is a pretty neat trick, really.
This is a Kenyan sand boa. Contrary to its name, it's also found in other areas aside from Kenya. It's a small-sized ambushed predator that spends most of its time hidden under the substrate.
I absolutely love sand boas. And that's another thing that boas have going for them. They have these specialized, adapted, smaller boa species, and some of them which burrow, like the Ericinae species, in particular the sand boas. That was a Calabar burrowing python. And just before you say to me, see, pythons have a burrowing species as well, it's important to note that the Calabar burrowing python, we also think that is now a boa of some description. There's a lot of disagreement over it, and taxonomists argue about this. I'm not a taxonomist, so I'm not going to make a decision. All I'm going to say is that the current scientific understanding is that they are some kind of primitive or basal species of boa compared to other boas. And the weird thing is they lay eggs, which usually, that's kind of what tricked people into thinking they were a python in the first place, probably.
Hey, my name is Mike Curtin with Scattershot Exotics. This is Clockwork. He is a wow line zebra jungle. He's got no jag in him. He's just a straight zebra. I've got 2 clutches on the ground from him this season that I'm waiting to hatch. So I'm probably about 2 months out from that. And he is by far one of the prettiest, brightest zebras that I've produced, and probably maybe the brightest that I've seen.
That was pretty cool. That was a carpet python morph, and I gotta say that can compete easily with any ball python morph. Even though I love ball pythons, I mean that thing was incredible looking. The reason he said no jag, by the way, is because the jaguar gene is associated with neurological issues, which I'm told vary from snake to snake, but I mean most people just avoid it now.
This is King Julian, the Dumerel's boa, a species of boa found in the dry forests of southern Madagascar. Their pattern of black, brown, and tan helps them blend in with leaves on the forest floor, and it makes it a lot harder for predators to see him. But more importantly, it makes it hard for prey to see him as well. Benny snakes are ambush predators. In the case of Dumerel's boas, they sit and let their food come to them. They'll find a cozy spot on the forest floor, curl up, and wait, sometimes for days at a time, for an animal like a small rodent or reptile to run across their path. It's way easier to wait for food to come to you. Just ask anyone who uses food delivery services. Even with the deforestation that's plaguing Madagascar, Dumerel's boas are still doing pretty well population-wise. They are considered vulnerable, but they're much more adaptable to their changing surroundings than other snake species.
Dumerel's boas are a really amazing species. It's kind of hard to contend with the beauty of a Dumerel's boa, and I know it's like a cliche, everyone says it, but photos really don't do them justice, or videos in this case. If you see one in real life, the babies, when they're newborns, or neonates I should say, they've got almost kind of like peachy tones in with the browns, and I think with that limited range of colours, it's incredible to see just how amazing they look.
They're beautiful.
I know.
So what's interesting about these guys is a lot of the snakes that we produce you get this iridescence on them, but there's basically nothing that compares, and this is natural. So not that many other things, aside from sunbeam snakes and a couple other things, will give you that same beautiful glow and iridescence. And in fact, if you look at these, a lot of these you'll see more color, like a very deep coloration. And you can totally see it up against the natural sunlight. A much deeper coloration than some of your retics or other, morphs, so to speak. Really the only thing that compares to this color-wise is the sunbeam snake. But this is obviously a little cooler just because of lots of other different things, the way they look and how rare they can be.
Another snake that lots of people are going to say it's their dream snake. I think the Boelen's python is just one of the most sought after species now. It's a larger species, but I think most people would probably get rid of their second bedroom to have a Boelen's python instead. The thing is, there is one snake that does compare for good reason to the Boelen's python in terms of iridescence, and that is the amethystine python. Because they are in the same genus now, of course, they've been reclassified into the Simalia genus, so Boelen's pythons, scrubbies, amethystine pythons are all very closely related. But what you've got in the Boelen's python is a montane species. It lives at high elevations. It needs a little bit more warmth extracting from the sun, so it's got black background coloration, and that does highlight the iridescence nicely. Rainbow boas can contend with them in terms of colour and iridescence, of course. If you get one, just make sure you get the humidity right, is all I'm saying. Nice to see a ball python out and about getting some enrichment. I do give Bobby my ball python enrichment several times a week, but all he does is sniff stuff. And he's been in every kind of enclosure, had every kind of opportunity throughout his life, and he just likes to kind of slowly mosey around and sniff stuff, like sniff the carpet and then sniff a chair for a while and sniff the sofa. So yeah, that's all he does. I love it on the true red-tailed boas. You see they've got that kind of pattern that almost looks a bit like a Batman symbol down their back. And just the overall colour and the way they mature and the tail gets redder as they get older, they are an incredible species. I don't think the pet trade would be what it is today without boa constrictors in it.
Look at this. Oh, perfect. Oh my God. Isn't it great? Chris. I know, it's my dream. I have goosebumps everywhere.
That was a nice little Angolan python. If you can find one captive bred, an Angolan python is a really cool alternative to a ball python. They're very closely related. They're like a ball python, except they come for drier habitats and they've got slightly different scales. They've got smaller scales. There's a specific name for them that I honestly can't remember what it is. But anyway, if you do have the opportunity to get one of these one day, I'd say go for it.
Now, I got to see bromeliad boas in the wild when I was in Costa Rica last month. Some of the coolest animals that I didn't really even know existed, but what makes them super unique is they are tiny. These would actually be a really great captive snake because they're pretty hardy. Sure, they eat lizards, but you could probably get them switched on to rodents if you really tried. They like really beautiful bioactive setups, or that would be perfect for them because, well, they're bromeliad boas, so they're found in bromeliads. Now, onto the legality of them. To put it very simply, back in the day, like we're talking 20, 30 years ago, there were some imports from Nicaragua and Honduras, but now I don't know that there's any legal way to bring them out of Central America where they're from. So if you find them in captivity, it would be ridiculously rare. Like, so rare, I've never been able to find one. They're just so impossible to find, and they're illegal to import, that I think they qualify as an illegal pet, illegal reptile.
Bromeliad boas are a really funny little pair of species. They're really cool looking, they're very shiny. I think overall, I mean, they do amazingly in the pet trade, just like he says. They're kind of different to other boas, so they're in a different subfamily. They're in the Unguliophinae, so they're not like true boas. Some people say maybe they're more closely related to North American boas, but I don't know if there's any truth in that. But they are definitely a separate, very distinct pair of species, and just really nice to look at.
If I ran a competition to find the coolest looking animal that I own, these guys might take the cake. This is my pair of baby Bismarck ringed pythons, and they come from Papua New Guinea, specifically the Bismarck archipelago. As babies, they're that insane jack-o'-lantern orange contrasted with the black and super iridescent in the sunlight. Then as an adult, the orange coloration turns to gold. Super cool animals.
Yeah, Bismarck ringed pythons are amazing. I think if someone could selectively breed them, line breed them, so that that orange coloration stays orange into adulthood, then everyone would want one. Nice little white-lipped python. There's two species of those. One lives further north, one further south. I think the southern one is larger, I can't quite remember. But both species are wonderfully iridescent like that. That's another cool pair of species right there.
Hi. Can I touch her? Can I touch the tail? Can I touch it? Oh, you don't like when I touch the tail? Boop. I'm sorry. Can I touch the nose? No bites. Nope, we're done.
Generally not a good idea teasing those. That's another species that you don't really see too much in the pet trade. Those are, of course, Amazon tree boas. I actually think they're really cool if people captive bred them in bigger numbers. So it'd be cool to see more of them.
Will my black-headed python eat sushi? She's never had fish before, and you all asked to see it, so let's find out. The footage is sped up a bit. Now, she investigates anything she's never seen before, and the plate is new, so she's attracted to it. She's hunting for something to eat, and even though she's never had fish, she can tell it's something she can probably put in her belly. Now at this point, I'm realizing that she may have a hard time picking it up. Watch what she does here. So she's trying, and then she goes over to the big piece and she tries to eat that from the middle. And snakes aren't designed to take bites out of things, so that's not going to work. I decided that I'd help her out and just hand her an end with tongs so she can get started the right way. I almost always feed Maya in her cage, but her aspen shavings would be like panko flakes on that fish, and I don't want her eating all those wood shavings. Also, normally Maya gets a whole prey item. A piece of fish is a nice lean meal, but it doesn't give her the guts and bones, which has important nutrients for her. So she won't get this meal very often. Actually, a whole fish that's the right size for her would be better. Maybe I should do a fishing trip. I'm really good at catching fish that aren't big enough for humans to eat. Anyway, Maya seems like she enjoys this, so I can add this meal to the list of options for her. So far we have rats, mice, quail, chicks, reptilinks, and now fish. Good job.
That was cool to see. Here's all of us struggling with ball pythons that just stop eating or will sometimes decide they only want, multi-mammate rats or whatever and being picky. And then you see black-headed pythons that will just eat pretty much anything, it seems. That's amazing to see. So, we've seen a good range of species there, lots of cool clips, some amazing creatures from both families. Overall, you've got to say the boas are more diverse, they've occupied more different habitats and niches, they've become more specialised, and there's probably a good 60-odd species of them. Pythons, on the other hand, have become less specialised, there's less species, maybe around 40, but they've become better at dominating terrestrial habitats. Personally, all in all, I think boas are a little bit cooler. But I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want to hear what you think in the comments. So let me know, and I'll see you again soon.
Python, doing this thing. Sliding through the kitchen, hear the hiss and the clang. Rats in the cupboard, that's his prey. Ball python, roof is his way. Sniffing that carpet, checking the scent. Finding those critters, cause he's heaven sent. Rapping on tight, filling the beat. Rhyme with the strike.